Nancy's going to come and share with us a word from her heart.
Pastor Doug. I'll get my notes out because I'm not a professional speaker like Doug and the other pastor are. My name is Nancy Key, and I guess you can consider me the warm-up speaker for the headliner pastor today. But before we get started, I'd like to introduce some very important people to you. The first one is this beautiful young man right here, my son, Alex Key. Say hi. And his best friend, who almost looks like a twin brother to him. They've been friends since elementary school, Dustin. And this young man right here is my husband, Randy Wills. For those of you that don't know Randy, it's important that you know these important people because they represent everything that is truth and love to me, and they are my life. There's one person that you don't see here today, and that's my daughter, Abby Key. Abby was 3 weeks from celebrating her 16th birthday when the accident happened. As I stand here today, I can't even believe that it's true. But a quarter mile away from where she and a group of church friends were driving on the highway, a freak accident occurred. There was an 18-wheeler involved, and an axle broke, 2 wheels flew off, and 1 wheel flew more than a quarter mile through the air like a flying saucer and exploded in the windshield of the passenger side of the car where Abby was sitting. I'm told she died instantly, and I've had people ask or say to me that they believe that when people die, their whole life flashes before them. I can't confirm if that's true or not, but I can tell you at the moment when you hear the words that your child is gone, that's exactly what happens. Your life flashes before you, and then the mind-numbing, soul-crushing, gut-wrenching pain doubles you over and fills your world with darkness. And you stay that way for a very long time. Sorry.
Okay.
For the first time ever, you feel the impermanence of life, and you realize how precious life is. So from June 21st, 2013 to this point, 5 years later, I call this my after Abby life. Before that was before Abby. It's like I've lived 2 separate lives, and it's been 2 completely separate journeys. So my before Abby life was wonderful. There was nothing I didn't love about that life. I had 2 thriving teenagers, lots of excitement and energy in the house. And it was something that you can't really describe because you never think it's going to end. I loved everything about it, and I remember saying if I ever lost one of you, I don't know what I would do. My life would be over. I was absolutely right about that. I just didn't know how right I was. Until that point, I would have said I had a strong faith in God. We went to church almost every Sunday. Well, definitely every Christmas and Easter. But once that happened, and I was consumed by the darkness, and I was drowning in a sea of confusion and grief, I realized that my faith in God was gone. I reached a point where I probably couldn't get any worse. And at that point, I looked God square in the eyes, and I said, "You've got to help me." I started screaming and crying and begging for a sign. I needed something strong that I could hold on to, and I needed to know that my after Abby life had some kind of purpose. And that went on for quite some time. That was not a good day. That was probably my all-time worst. That night when I went to bed, as was normal in my after Abby life, I kind of dozed on and off, never really went to sleep. But at 2 a.m., something happened. And all I can tell you is what I know. And I know that God spoke to me that night. At 2 o'clock in the morning, something came over me, and I heard his voice loud and clear. And he said to me, "Nancy, you are my daughter. I am your father, and I love you. And I can tell you, Abby is doing great things for me. And your life has purpose. Oh," and he added this, your dad is going to die peacefully in his sleep on your birthday. That was kind of random. But this was January, and my birthday was May 28th. Feel free to mark that down so Alex will remember. So 4 months, in 4 months, I knew that my dad was going to die. Now, he had just been diagnosed with severe Alzheimer's, and in my dad's day, he was a brilliant man. He was probably one of the most brilliant, strongest men I'd ever met, which meant when he became very severely dementiated, he had a mind of his own, and nobody could tell him what to do. So my sister became his caretaker, and during those 4 months, he got worse and worse. And the day before my birthday, my sister took my dad into the hospital to get final assessment on his medical condition. And she called me crying. She said, "Nancy, the doctors just told me he could live this way for 3 to 5 more years." Which was confusing because the next day was my birthday. So the next morning at 8:30 a.m., my phone rang. It was my sister. And I just knew. I answered the phone and I said, "He's gone, isn't he?" And she whispered into the phone in a crying whisper, "Yes, he died peacefully in his sleep just a little while ago." I knew then that was my sign. I knew that Abby was in a better place. I knew that my after Abby life had purpose. And I knew that I was destined for great things in this world. I also knew that I had to rededicate myself to this young man right here and make sure that his life took him places that he never could imagine. There were a lot of events that occurred after that happened. One is that I got baptized. I was born a Catholic, so I used to say I don't need to join a club to believe in God, but I did. I joined the club and I got baptized, and I'm here to tell you that God has been with me on this journey ever since. One thing I wanted to tell you is that in my after Abby life, I became obsessed with happiness. I had lived in grief for so long that I just couldn't stand it anymore. I needed to figure out how to be happy. And everything you read in the Bible tells you that you have to be positive and live with happiness. And I thought, well, that's lovely, but someone needs to show me how to do that. So I found my answers in something called counterfact. A counterfact is how you view a situation or an event from your perspective. So I'll give you an example. Let's say you go into a bank and there's 50 other people there, and you're just conducting your bank business, and a robber comes in with, an armed robber comes in with a gun, and he says, "This is a holdup, don't anybody move." There's an unarmed security guard, and he tackles the guy. One random shot is fired, and let's say you got shot in the left shoulder. Your counterfact is how you would describe that event the next day. So and right now sitting there, you're probably wondering, I wonder how I would describe it, but I'm going to tell you how you would describe it. 80% of us would say, I must be the most unlucky person in the world because I go into a bank, there's 50 people there, one shot fires, and it shoots me in the left shoulder and I almost get killed. The other 20% of us would say, I am so blessed. I went into the bank yesterday and a gunman came in, a bullet fired off and hit me in the left shoulder when it could have hit me in the heart. There were lots of children in the bank that morning and nobody else got hurt. The unarmed security guard did an awesome job subduing the robber. So that's the difference in counterfact. There's been decades of studies on this that say that everybody carries around a bucket of pain. We all know that our bucket is the biggest and the heaviest. But it's no doubt everybody's got a bucket of pain. If you live long enough, you might have multiple buckets, and that bucket keeps filling up. But your happiness factor is dependent on your choice that God lets you make each and every day. And it's your choice to what your counterfact is going to be. Are you going to be part of the 20% that views life from a positive perspective? Or are you going to be one of the 80% that goes with the negative? And that also goes with situations that are positive. there is that 80% that if someone walked in here right now and said, I've got free chocolate cake, that they would say, God, I don't even like chocolate. Where's the vanilla? So keep that in mind as you go through every day of your life, and try to keep a positive outlook, and know that God is letting you make that choice, and that He is going to lead you along the way. So in closing, I wanted to say that I need to confess to you that I am not really the warm-up speaker for the headliner. See, there's kind of a secret there that I didn't tell you, and the secret is I'm doing this not for the preacher. I'm doing this for one person and one person only, and that person is my son, Alex. He deserves nothing but the best. You know, I practiced that. I was not going to cry when I said that, so you can't either. I know God's love is strong enough that you can look Him square in the face, and you can demand answers, and He won't back down, and He won't be offended. On the contrary, He will help you, and He will take you places you never thought possible. So when you find yourself standing on the edge of greatness, and you're looking out into the dark abyss, don't be afraid to step off and fly. In the words of Abby Key, dream large, baby, dream large.
Thank you so much.
I'm glad I don't have to follow that.